Hi, if you do cybersecurity, then you know that your applications are really important to your business, your workloads, protecting them, that's a key issue. I've got somebody in the studio today who's an expert in this area. It's a friend of mine, I've known him many years. Stick around, I think you'll learn quite a bit about apps and certainly about lateral movement. If that's something you're worried about, then stay here and I think you'll enjoy the video. Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber. I want to welcome you to our video today. I have a long-time friend of mine, Malhotra, who is the CEO and founder of a company called TrueFort that I'm sure you've heard of. They've been in and around the cybersecurity and application space for many years. I've learned a lot from Samir, and I'm going to ask Samir some hard questions about how you stop hackers and lateral movement and so on. So I hope you enjoy our discussion. So Samir, nice to see you.
Hi Ed, thanks for having me.
How's everything going?
Wonderful. It's a nice day in New York City. At least we don't have snow.
That is good. That's good. Hey, before we get into the tech, tell us real briefly what do you guys do at TrueFort, and then I want to ask you about lateral movement. But tell us about the company.
So TrueFort, as you know, Ed, we're focused on helping our customers understand their application environments and protect them in many ways, especially as we talk about lateral movement and workload protection.
I remember when you started the company. I think I literally came to see you when you were starting.
Yeah, I think that was about 6 years ago. I think you came when we didn't even have a real office.
Yeah, it's cool though. I watched you go from classic garage startup to running a really fine company. I'm so happy you guys have done so well. So
well, we appreciate all our customers and all our, especially our team that has helped us get the value to our customers.
You have a darn good one. So, all right, lateral movement. So anybody who does offense or defense knows that if you're dealing with a campaign, that is the guts of it. People get in. First of all, tell me what that means. Does that mean sort of bopping around from one thing to the next? What do you mean by lateral movement?
You know, Ed, over the years, it's been redefined, but the basics are always the same. In the early days of cyber, especially, think about the days, Ed, when you used to run complex cyber environments, right? We focused on hardening the perimeter, and that was because we wanted to control ingress, egress.
Right.
And then
north-south.
North-south, or even, mostly north-south, right?
Right.
And then, we also try to protect the endpoints because that was a vector to get in.
Yeah.
What we found out in the last few years, obviously there's many ways. Ransomware in particular has been notorious about allowing folks to grab hold of your internal environment.
Yeah.
So lateral movement is basically the principle where anyone, insider or outsider, once they're in your environment, have the ability to move within that environment with impunity, whether it's on-prem, hybrid, or in the cloud.
The impunity part is the problem, right?
It is. It's absolutely the problem, right?
You turn the impunity to that's not right.
And because if you really think about it, the previous methods of trying to protect was network-centric.
Yeah.
Right? So we said, look, as long as you can secure your network and understand everything that's going in and just make sure it's all tight, then we're good.
Seemed like a great idea at the time.
I think it is a great idea. Just that we then created a whole business in terms of false positives.
Everything got too like networks got too complicated.
Right.
Like you can't really run a perimeter anymore.
And now with modern applications, especially with overlays and containerized, and if you look at applications that are more API centric, the network is no longer the binding factor across your businesses.
You know what always sort of freaks me out about lateral movement? It's both early, kind of easy, kind of hackers, one's just learning, and also like a nation state coming after you. They both more or less do the same thing. It's in the playbook for the really good hackers and the ankle biters. So, you guys noticed that? I mean, it seems
absolutely.
Like
I mean,
everybody would do it the same way.
How many times have you heard the story? Well, they got in because we did something silly, and then they dwell times are becoming less, and they wander around, and they got to the app finally. We didn't even know they got it, and someone called us that our data was outside.
Heard it before.
every day.
Yeah, that
Right.
is the
And
play.
it's just not one industry. It's every industry, and it's not one country. It's every country. So
Yeah.
everyone's facing that same issue.
So I'm going to say a word and you tell me if this is your solution. Visibility.
Everything starts
that part
with
of it?
well,
It
everything
starts
starts with visibility,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So you cannot protect what you cannot see or understand,
Yeah.
right? And so the real quest is how fast and how easy can you get to that visibility initially to start to develop your posture around what you're trying to do. But what is also important is how deep is your visibility, right? Do you just see it at a network level? Do you see it at the workload level? Or are you able to go deeper and create contextual relationships into that visibility that allows you to then use the visibility to define policy, or just the visibility itself giving you enough insight as a mitigator to risks?
It's good that you're saying words like use and insight, because a lot of times, like providing this data, you don't know what to do with it. You see that sometimes in OT environments. You get all these alarms and alerts, and you don't know what to do. But I would imagine that's something you guys focus on avoiding.
We do. The key aspect around getting the visibility is it should be for a purpose, right? It's visibility for the sake of visibility is just an infinite problem.
It's not useful.
And so what we do at TrueFort is align that visibility to your business processes, basically your applications that drive your business.
Yeah.
So we narrow the context of that. We give you reference as to what that behavior, whether it's network, process, identity, relationships, all of that in context to what's driving your business. This allows you then to prioritize how you want to focus on protecting the business in general.
When you start with a client, do you start basically with the apps? Because I know you have a bunch of partnerships and other things you do, but is it usually just start with, all right, let's start with your apps and work outward? Is that how you do it, or is it a different way?
Yeah, so it depends on how they want to protect the lateral movement, right? So visibility, yes, it's all around workload and applications, right? And then from there, it's layering on the different controls to create the difficult paths so that whoever is attacking the environment or trying to get to it has a difficult time, or at least is detected faster than we can today.
A lot of your customers have homegrown apps that they built, or is it kind of balanced?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. In the large Fortune 2000, there's a tremendous investment in technology. They build their own applications, they drive that. I mean, those are differentiating factors for their businesses. What we find is that in those environments, typical tools that you see in the industry do not satisfy protecting them. So you need something with a different view into that, and that's where TrueFort shines, because we can baseline and help you understand that. But as we go into other markets, they do have custom applications, or they might use cloud-based SaaS services and the likes. To us, it's all the same. We
like
try
some
to
HR
we try to
we
try to support you in those environments just as much as the homegrown. Especially if you look at people who are transforming their businesses to go to the cloud, they never say, I'm moving my workloads to the cloud. Everyone says, we're moving our business or applications. And so that transformation is key, and understanding that is critical.
I always think of you guys as having such a good connection with big companies with legacy apps that they wrote, because they are a mess. And usually you can't pull them out. That's something that's going to be there forever. So that must be a nice business for you.
That's great. That used to be the case, but today cyber is not, cyber risk is not just the large enterprise. Right? And so we see medium-sized businesses, we see manufacturing. Think about all the issues from in the manufacturing side, from Colonial Pipelines going forward, right? So the risk to their businesses, especially in the mid-scale large enterprise from a manufacturing perspective, is that if they get ransomware or someone gets in and controls that environment, they actually shut down their business. They could lose millions of dollars, but also have reputational risk and client risk.
Is it tougher to deal with the mid-sized companies? They often don't have a big security team or anything. Do you have to hold their hand a little more?
Over the years, we've been refining how we do business with the mid-sized enterprise by making it easier. We do know that they struggle more with trying to get adequate resources. As we all know, cyber resources are very difficult. So we've tried to automate as much and partner with the other cybersecurity companies to give them as much information and data and make it easy and more turnkey. Also partnering with MSSPs and service providers that support those businesses has been a vehicle that we've used.
Nice channel, yeah. I'm going to say another term now, zero trust. So is that something your clients bring up a lot? Because that's changed the architecture.
Absolutely.
For lateral movement.
If you look at zero trust, when it started from the earliest days of access control, now it's become a moniker for every methodology in cybersecurity. TrueFort's truly part of the zero trust story, right? If you understand your application, can control access to it, can control your network, your process, your identity around the workloads and the applications, we're part of your zero trust story. Obviously, we're not the full zero trust story. There are other components that come into it, but it's saying XDR, it's the same thing. Not everyone's got the full solution, it's the same thing in zero trust. But we think in order to get to that journey, that visibility is the key, because if you cannot understand, then you cannot implement least privilege access or zero trust policies in your environment.
Do you find that the compliance and regulatory requirements are now reflecting both a need to deal with lateral movement and also zero trust? Are they catching up and referencing these issues?
Yeah, absolutely. We all know that regulation's a lagging indicator, right?
Yeah.
And so
partly by design.
Because they look at
it has to be real before you regulate, sure.
And since many businesses, especially those that are important to the economies of countries, I think more and more regulation is driving the sense of cybersecurity. Certainly, in certain regions like Europe, we see that as a bigger driver than, say, the United States. United States, we see businesses really concerned about their cyber posture, the risk to business versus regulation, but it's all catching up. It is a lagging indicator. We do know that financial services has more regulation, but we're also seeing definitely government entities and those working with them facing the same. We find that industries like healthcare are driving up that because of patient privacy and the like. So regulation is becoming a key factor into decision making around cybersecurity.
Yeah, when you first started the company, we were talking, I remember this is a clear, really want to have, should have, but wasn't a must have some number of years ago. Feels like it's becoming a must have now. You're not going to get through your assessments and you're going to have a punch list from the Fed or something if you don't do this kind of thing. Right?
When we first started, our concept of protecting against lateral movement by the different controls, so microsegmentation, workload hardening, FIM, and non-human or service account management. They were desperate concepts of cyber, and lateral movement then became a big talk, and now it's something that's of serious concern. I mean, it's a common verbiage in the cyber community that stopping that is a key factor, and that's where the investments go. Like you said, when we started, there were desperate measures, but now it's all coming together as a must-have capability to ensure that if you do get breached, then you have the controls to stop it at where it started.
One thing that sort of suggests that your area has arrived is that you've got app teams talking to you, not just security teams. Tell me about that. Do you find sometimes you're engaged in a discussion, maybe even making a sale, to a team that wouldn't have the word security in their their title?
It's very interesting where cybersecurity has moved
more mainstream.
More mainstream, right? If you remember the early days of infrastructure, like you had the network team and the application teams only knew that they had to put a piece of software and someone else managed it. today that bridge has all been gapped, right? Because app teams themselves are managing the real-time availability in clouds and cloud-type application and cloud-type environments. So they're becoming more conversant with cyber and cybersecurity, and the responsibility is now shifting more and more as we become more aware of how to develop proper in terms of preventing risk to the platforms that we deliver for our businesses.
That's good. You and I are mainstream now. Look at us.
I mean, imagine that.
We used to be off to the side. Hey, for people who want to engage, what do they do? Is it a POC? What are they installing? What's step one to putting TrueFort in my environment? What do I need to do?
So it's over the years we've done a lot of automation. An example is CrowdStrike. If you're a CrowdStrike customer, we can give you visibility.
You have a nice relationship with them.
We do. We enjoy the relationship with CrowdStrike, of course.
Yeah.
And so that's an example. We're working with several other partners in terms of making it easy to get to the first step of visibility, and then helping you along with controls. We certainly have our own native capabilities, which customers enjoy.
But the deployment, is it usually a POC first, or they just start deploying to apps? What do you find?
It really depends on the customer. Yeah. Some customers still like to follow the POC route because they feel that they want to gauge and understand the amount of effort, and some customers just know exactly what they need to do, and all they do is just verify that your product is legitimate, and hopefully the conversations that we have with you, Ed, support that, and they go straight into a business relationship with us.
Do you take like the output and the visibility to kind of plug that into other things like my SIM or other kinds of tools?
So we help with a lot of GRC. We help with a lot of understanding from a architecture.
GRC meaning like Archer,
right? And any
like
compliance type understanding. And then we certainly help with architecture and a feedback, because one of the things we are able to do is help you understand your applications from the data that we're getting. Many organizations spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get one-time snapshots, whereas we're giving you an active view with temporal ability to go back and forth and understand that at your fingertips.
I got another hard word to use.
Sure.
Mitigation. So that's where you decide, okay, visibility is one thing. Now I'm actually going to implement some policy enforcement.
Yeah.
How many of your customers actually flip the switch and will do real segmentation where they're stopping attacks? Because I know you guys can do that. Do you find that people are generally pretty aggressive in implementing that kind of thing?
Sure. I think the important thing to understand there is that if you're trying to achieve 100% policy enforcement across, real blocking policy enforcement, that's usually a losing game. You're
going to knock stuff out, right?
Well,
you and I both done that.
It's not knocking stuff out anymore, because tools like ours are quite advanced in terms of telling you what's going to break. It's really just hardening it to a point where change control is very strong.
Yeah.
And so many organizations do that to their core key critical platforms.
Yeah, you prioritize, you find a few things where you absolutely need to do
and
that.
And with the TrueFort platform, the beauty of the rest of the mitigation is you can do it through event management, alerts, and use your existing operational or security processes to understand when there's a lateral movement, when there's a change in behavior that's risky, that can be sent. So the value of mitigation is not always a hard concrete wall. It's the ability to get that data, get the events, understand it, and then use the forensic capability to determine if it's something you want to go after. Certainly on critical assets, it is a must. You want to get there, right? We've been buying firewalls for the longest time. So they do get there on the critical assets. The rest of the environment, you just want to have the capabilities and get the data and get the understanding and know that you can mitigate it if you want to.
So I have an enterprise, I got a bunch of apps. I call you. I say, Samir, get in here. I'm worried about lateral movement. So you would help me tool the environment And would I be getting alerts if there's evidence that somebody may be lurking? Is that the idea? Like I'm
That's the minimum.
know.
That's the minimum state.
But that's a pretty big minimum. That's
it is.
what I don't have
now.
now.
You don't have it now,
Right.
and we can take you to that really, really quick without the risk of creating outages.
If I were you, I wouldn't sell anything else. That seems good enough.
Well, we hope so.
That fancy CEO doing all this stuff. But that alone is a big deal because, like at least in our work at Tag Cyber, all the time we're hearing about dwell times of like 3 months, 4 months. They're wandering around the network. And I have a sort of an emotional connection to people there because I know how hard it is to do that, but I would think this kind of tool would be a sort of a gimme.
Well, it came from our experience, right? We went through the same issues, right? And you know, the only way, and it's bringing us to that whole least privilege of zero trust thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Across the different access points or configuration points, you've got to have visibility. You've got to be able to understand that. Once you get to that baseline, then having the ability to detect that is key. Yeah. And you know, to your point, we can do it on a analytical basis, on a software basis, and then you know move you to enforcement should you choose to do so. But you can get to the state where you can be confident that you can detect that. So that's a mitigating factor that's important, not just the ability to get the data, but to continuously monitor it.
If people want to be in touch with you, what should they do?
Simple, TrueFort.com. I'm there. You can get me on email or reach out to Tag Cyber, and I'm sure you'll
point them over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope they do. I think that it's a piece of the puzzle that I think has been kind of missing. I know you've been working in this area a while, but when we talked about your focus on lateral movement, I got excited because I thought that is a pretty good piece of the puzzle. That's something that should be a must as opposed to should. Now we got to figure out how to get the framework writers to be more specific and demanding. That's my job.
Yeah, I think that's happening. The industry is fully aware, and I think you know organizations will be asked what are they doing around protection around lateral movement.
Trying. Well, listen, thanks for heading across the Hudson River to visit here. It's always nice to see you.
Thank you, Ed. I really always have fun coming here, and I appreciate it.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Great. And for everyone else watching, we'll see you next time.